clearly the anti-aircraft response from Baghdad much more limited than in the first Gulf War, much more limited.
Beyond the airport, when you say northwest of the city?
It is? No, 100%.
All right, we're joined now by retired Air Force General Michael Short, who ran the bombing campaign against Kosovo. General, what do we think here? Do we have some Tomahawks that are landing in the Baghdad area?
Tom, I think a laydown of air-launched cruise missiles, 2,000-pound warhead, penetrating capability, extraordinary explosive capability, launched from B-52s, perhaps as many as 10 from the United Kingdom, and then sea-launched missiles from submarines and destroyers and cruisers, probably a couple of British submarines.
Tom, U.S. government officials are now describing a somewhat different plan than the huge, massive bombardment of Baghdad in what they would call the shock and awe campaign. That was the original campaign underway, and I guess it could be best described perhaps as shock and pause. It was suggested to us that there may be waves of airstrikes now that are more incremental, aimed at specific leadership targets. As Peter Arnett described the areas being struck in this latest wave of airstrikes from U.S. warplanes and missiles, those are aimed at the Baghdad elite and leadership targets. According to officials, the bombing last night aimed at this bunker that supposedly contained Saddam Hussein and senior members of his regime. That was a very direct message aimed at Saddam Hussein. That was followed up today by messages from both Secretary of Defense Rumsfeld and Ari Fleischer during their briefings here in Washington. What's interesting about those briefings is that they are beamed into Iraq via airborne radio broadcasts through military aircraft. And the message from both of them today was very strong, essentially give up while you've got the chance. Take down Saddam Hussein and avoid an all-out war. These airstrikes are apparently designed now to reinforce that latest message. Meanwhile, still no indication that despite the artillery barrages being aimed across the border at the 51st Mechanized Unit in southern Iraq, that any of those ground troops have actually begun to move into the country of Iraq. Tom?
All right, thanks very much, NBC. Jim Miklashevsky. Kelly O'Donnell, who is at CENTCOM, the Central Command Headquarters in Qatar, is reporting the basement of that hotel.
We've always suspected there was a command and control bunker in the basement of it, and he actually used putting all the reporters there as a human shield to do it. They've moved out. Peter's in the Palestine Hotel, which is a crummy hotel. It's one I use. It does have one advantage. It has its own generator, so they may actually keep electricity if that goes out. It also has some fantastic views over onto the west side, where there's this heavy concentration of government buildings and a relatively good panorama. So if you can get to the roof, which is a dangerous thing to do with all the AAA around, actually you can see quite a bit.
Let's go back to Peter Arnett. Peter, we've just been talking about you in the Palestine Hotel and your ability to get a very good view of the city. I'm struck by the fact that there appear to be vehicles on the roads below you. Not many.
Well, you know, this is a phenomenon of Baghdad. Even during the heaviest bombing of the first Gulf War, vehicles were driving around. Now, don't forget, a lot of officials, a lot of these cars are probably official cars, maybe militiamen going to posts. You know, this is a party, a country run by a very, very intensely, repressive regime that has many, activists in it and many enforcers. So a lot of that will be these people. The picture you're looking at, by the way, if you're looking at the fires, they seem to be in Deputy Prime Minister Tariq Aziz's former office. Now, these fires seem to be spreading, so clearly that was an earlier target. I can confirm, Tom, that the Information Ministry was not hit in that initial attack. It was an adjoining building, an adjoining government building whose purpose we don't really know what it's used for. But the Information Ministry still stands, which I'm glad to hear, because I think there are quite a few of the international media still around there, Tom.
All right, thank you, Peter. And Tariq Aziz's former office, where we are seeing the fires burning, was hit pretty hard in 1998, as I remember, during Operation Desert Fox, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. It's interesting that they got it in the opening night yet again.
I was in there in the spring of this year. It has a very ornate marble lobby, 2.5 stories high, but then you get upstairs, there's a lot of cheap wallboard. And I asked them why. They said, we got tired of replacing it. It's been hit so many times.
Well, they told us the elevator, don't take the elevator. We had a Rocky say, don't take the elevator. It often stops. Walk up the stairs.
Tom, David made a point just a moment ago that's worth understanding for the viewing public. Is he said it's dangerous to be on the roof because of all the AAA going up. All that stuff goes up, explodes, creates shrapnel, has to come back down again. There will be a lot of damage and a lot of death in Baghdad from AAA that the Iraqis have put into the air that has to come back down someplace.
Well, we hope that the people of Iraq, who are in many instances the innocent victims of all of this, having been through 2 wars now, are in their homes. We do know that many of them made preparations. That they began stockpiling food several months ago. They began to make arrangements for getting water out of the Tigris River if necessary. They were building clay